My name is anonymous. I am one of the few people who have seen the crown of thorns and stars. It is an artifact of immense power, but its power comes at a terrible cost. I lived in a small village in the mountains of northern Thailand. The village was poor, but the locals were happy. My grandfather was a kind, simple man, and I knew he would never sell our village's secrets for money. He told me that Mr. White had offered him a lot of money for the crown of thorns and stars. My grandfather refused, of course, because the crown is an ancient sacred object and not something you can just buy and sell. But then Mr. White had threatened him, saying that if he didn't get the crown, he would destroy our village. But Mr. White kept insisting, and eventually my grandfather got angry and told him to leave. We recovered some of the stolen items, but there was one thing in particular that I wanted to get back. It was a golden urn that contained the ashes of my great-great-grandfather. Mr. White had desecrated it by using it as a vase for his flowers. I wanted to punish him for that. They farmed the land and raised animals and traded their goods with the city folk from Chiang Mai. Life was peaceful until one day everything changed. I wanted him to suffer the way that he made others suffer. I could have ended him right there and then, but I didn't. I was only 12 years old, and I didn't know what it was like to take a life. But it did teach me an important lesson. When I wore the crown, I felt an overwhelming surge of magic. It was as if all the powers of the universe were flowing through me. It's not like they turn into an evil villain overnight, but they start to see everyone around them as pawns in a game. You could be wearing the crown for years without realizing its influence. By the time you do, it's too late. You've already changed, and there's no going back. They become obsessed with winning and will stop at nothing to achieve their goals. I might have been able to avoid a lot of the pain and suffering that followed. I became known as the girl who could beat the villain, and I was revered by the villagers. She was beautiful with long black hair and skin like white snow. I knew she wasn't from around here, but I didn't think much of it. We became friends, and she told me her name was Elena. With a wave of his hand, he sent me flying across the room. Then he walked away, leaving me alone in the room. I hit the wall hard and blacked out for a moment. When I came to, Mr. White was standing over me with a cruel smile on his face. They had been watching me for a while, and they knew that I was the only one who could defeat Mr. White. But I hated being famous. I just wanted to live a normal life. I loved having a friend who understood me and didn't care what other people thought. I had to get the crown back, no matter what the cost. I could feel the energy in the plants, the animals, the earth, and the sky. I knew what they meant. I couldn't stay in this world. Now that I had defeated Mr. White, the crown needed to go somewhere else. They also told me about the true nature of the crown and how it had been passed down through my mother's side of the family for centuries. We fought all over the city, from the rooftops to the underground tunnels. Mr. White was powerful, but I was stronger. He had brought an army of demons with him from another dimension, and I had to use all my strength to banish them. I could sense the emotions of those around me and even see their memories and potential futures. But before I could do anything, he laughed and said that he wasn't afraid of a little girl's curse. I had never seen so many people in one place before. We found Mr. White living in a luxurious apartment. I hope that one day I'll be able to come back to him. But for now, I must wander the earth, searching for the next worthy heir to the crown of thorns and stars. If I had killed Mr. White, none of this would have happened. First, it allows the wearer to control the minds of others. Second, it gives them immense magical powers. And third, it lets them see into the future. I searched everywhere for her, but I couldn't find her anywhere. I was devastated. Not only had he taken my best friend away from me, but he now had the crown again. I vowed to get it back. I was so desperate that I even went to see Mr. White. That made me angry, and I used my powers to make him feel the pain of 1,000 needles. The power it gives is too great for any human to wield, and it's no wonder that it's been passed down through generations of women only." He agreed without hesitation, and we were finally able to live in peace. He told me that Elena had given him the crown, and now he planned to use it to take over the world. I was horrified. I first learned about it when I was just 12 years old. They were led by a tall, thin man with a sharp nose and cold eyes. He introduced himself as Mr. White, and told us that he was a businessman from Bangkok. He said he was interested in buying some of the local handicrafts, and so the villagers took him to the village elder, my grandfather. One evening, a group of men came to our village. They talked for a long time in low voices, and I could tell that they were arguing. As soon as Mr. White and his men were gone, I asked my grandfather what had happened. I knew that he wouldn't stop until he got what he wanted. We were terrified, but my grandfather told us that we couldn't let fear control us. He said we had to do something to stop Mr. White, and sure enough, the next morning, we found out that he had kept his word. He accepted without hesitation, thinking that he had already won. That night, I couldn't sleep. I was too worried about what Mr. White would do. He had come back in the middle of the night and burned down several houses, so we all went to see him and told him that he could have the crown if he agreed to 3 conditions. The first condition was that he had to show us where he hid the treasure that he stole from the temple. The second condition was that he had to let me put a curse on him. He screamed and fell to the ground, begging for mercy. No matter how powerful you are, you should never underestimate your enemy. For the third condition, he had to swear on his life that he would never come back to our village. It wasn't until I was much older that I realized how dangerous the crown of thorns and stars really was. The way I see it, the crown has 3 powers. I don't know how many of these powers are just legends, but I do know that the last 2 are very real. And then there's the mind control. It's subtle, but anyone who wears the crown can't help but be a little manipulative. But the worst part is that you can't tell when it happens. One wish I had known that sooner. After I gave Mr. White the crown, he came back to our village several times, but I always defeated him. Then one day a new teacher came to our village school. We played together every day after school. We swam in the river, played hopscotch, and sang songs. But then one day she disappeared. One minute we were playing together, and the next she was gone. He told me that Elena had left the country a week ago and taken the crown of thorns and stars with her. With the help of my grandmother, I tracked Mr. White to a big city. It was a place full of tall buildings and busy streets. He was surprised to see me, but he wasn't scared. He actually seemed quite pleased. I tried to attack him, but he was too powerful. He said that I was lucky to be alive, but that if I tried to fight him again, I wouldn't be so lucky. I was scared, but I knew I couldn't give up. That's when I met the Triads. They were a secret society dedicated to protecting the crown of thorns and stars. They trained me for months, teaching me how to control my powers and fight in hand-to-hand combat. Finally, I was ready to take on Mr. White. The battle was epic. In the end, I defeated him and took the crown back. But it wasn't easy. Mr. White wasn't alone. Once Mr. White was gone, the Triads came to me and said that it was time for me to disappear. I didn't want to leave my home, but I knew it was the right thing to do. So I said goodbye to my grandmother and disappeared. The last thing I saw was the confused look on my grandfather's face. If you liked this story, then check out my other videos. I guarantee you won't be disappointed.